got mixed up with a few wrong things as a young lad, and the boxing was really my focus. And it was my dad that really was drumming along to me, look, you need to go away in the army. There's not much here for you. He gets me there and he starts quizzing me about where I've come from, blah, blah, blah. And he says, look, I am going to break you. I promise you now, we will break you by the end of this course is finished. So as that sort of settled down, the crowd sort of turned and headed towards the police station because they knew there were soldiers in there. Unfortunately, they were all killed in that police station. The crowds that obviously done the murders were the same crowds that were coming back daily, petrol bombing the place, mortaring the place most nights. An RPG had been fired outside the camp, and it literally, as slow as you like, comes flying over the top of the camp, and you're like looking up as it flies over. Not, I kid you not, it was like slow motion. Love them days in ITC, cats, teaching young lads how to become soldiers.
Yeah.
Gotta want it more than anything else in the world.
On this episode of the Elite Podcast, I speak to Captain Joseph Fleming, former Regimental Sergeant Major of the Specialised Infantry, Ranger and entrepreneur. Joe, how are we doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having us here, Lee. No, doing great.
Pleasure, mate. It's really good to have you here and to meet you for a chat, as we chat very often at the gym.
Yeah, no, certainly.
Yeah.
But, no, it's good to be here and just see how the day goes. Really.
Yeah. Well, it'd be great if we could kind of get a bit of an overview of yourself and your background, because you've done a lot in your career. Obviously, met you at the gym.
Yeah.
Instantly just got started getting on with you. Yeah. Tell straight away you were military. Like you gravitate to each other, don't you?
The green t-shirt probably with army on the back, probably give it away though.
Well, this is it, yeah. And what I did notice is straight away at the gym is how you'd gone into that environment and befriended everybody and helped everyone and tried to have been of value and kind of really supportive to everyone. I thought that's what gave it away. I could tell that
that's probably in your nature, isn't it? Probably something I wasn't aware of, but now you've mentioned it.
No, definitely was. That's what I noticed straight away, because I'm a bit more quiet. I sit there in the background and try to keep myself
bit of a dark horse.
Keep myself to myself.
Watching and listening to everyone.
Yeah, this is it.
Judgments.
Watching everyone, figuring out who's what.
Yeah.
But and then we got chatting. I found out you got such an extensive military background, including stuff. Joined, obviously, we'll go over it in detail now, but so you joined like the Kingos, or that's what they call it in Liverpool anyway.
Yeah.
What's the correct name for it?
It was the King's Regiment.
That's it.
But the soldiers are Kingos.
The Kingos, that's it. And then that went on to become like the mechanized, not mechanized, the specialised infantry or something.
They amalgamated then to become the Duke of Lancasters.
Okay.
Then the Duke of Lancasters, then many years later, then one of the regiments then formed to be the Specialised Infantry.
That was the one. And you were the
Specialised Infantry then formed to become the new Ranger unit, as
that's
you know
right.
today.
Yeah. So I spoke to you, and so you were the RSM of that as well, weren't you? And then that changed to become the Rangers at that point, was you, just as you were switching, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then you've gone on, you're still serving now as a reservist, as a captain.
Still serving as a captain, yeah. So 12 months ago, transitioned out the army, but straight into a full-time reservist job as the quartermaster up at the HQ Northwest OTR, Officer Training Regiment. So, yeah, looking after university students, developing the next leaders of tomorrow.
Oh, is that what it is then? The OTR? Right. So we get those with 4-para. So a lot of
we
guys
just sent a load across to you.
Yeah.
I was telling you, but you wasn't listening.
Yeah, no, I just put two and two together then. So we get quite a lot of the amount of recruits are from there.
Yeah, because obviously this year with spending cuts and everything else, they haven't been getting the pay as they wanted.
Yeah.
Obviously it hasn't hit 4-para as much as it hits some of the other units. So they've obviously made a financial decision to stay. We love the army, but there's an element of everyone needs to be paid. So they've made that jump. And I think it's a good one as well, the paras. It's the harder one to do. The easier option is to go to some of the other units.
Yeah, that's it.
But the young thrusters.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's good that they're there and that they basically get to get a bit of an income, don't they, while they're in college, or is it college or university?
University, yeah. So they get like a day's pay, quarter day's pay. Yeah. But I think a lot of them, they do it for two reasons really. It's more like the experience and, the insight into what the army offer. Bit of leadership qualities, and then for some of them go on then to go to Sandhurst and become potential officers in the future.
Or they get broken on about week 4 with 4-para. A lot.
Yeah, that's probably where you're at. I don't see that part of it, but where we're at, it's very much nature leaders for tomorrow. Yeah. that's really the idea behind what we're doing now at the moment.
That's brilliant.
No, it's been really good, and it's been like a good 1 foot in the military, 1 foot out the military. So without all the benefits, but without all the
brilliant. Because obviously you've transitioned out and you just started your own company as well recently, haven't you? Like a training company for management and leadership, isn't it? But we'll get onto that a bit more at the end. What I thought would be good, if that's all right with you, is to kind of regress back a little bit to when you grew up, because you're from Liverpool, or from the other side of the water, or is that just...
You're kidding me, aren't you?
Is that the big and most offensive thing I could have said to you?
Yeah, not on here today, mate. Not on here. No. So definitely grew up in Liverpool.
Yeah, which part was it?
Walton, Anfield. So Upton Avenue, on the road that leads right up to the ground.
Yeah.
So grew up there all my life.
So around the Everton ground?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, so that's only across the way.
They've moved Everton now, haven't they? What's your thoughts on that? It's nowhere near Everton anymore, is it?
It's on the dock, isn't it? No, it's on the dock. Yeah. So, no, I think it's a good thing. It's just transport getting in for people, accessibility, isn't it? I suppose that's really the linchpin. They've got a better stadium, better than what they've got now.
Yeah.
I think that people are happy for it,
Oh, that's good. So
more seats on offer.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. So growing up in and around Anfield then, like, what was that like? And tell us a little bit about that.
I think me growing up childhood was brilliant. I had everything. Loving mum and dad, 3 big sisters, younger brother. I had loads of good friends. We got out and done all the things that kids are meant to do, playing, smashing windows, playing football, doing everything you should have done. I had a really good childhood. Went to St Matthew's primary school, and then ended up in Croxteth for the senior school in Delasell. So they had a couple of famous people come out of there, like Wayne Rooney. He was the year below me. So the school attracted a lot of people who were into football and stuff. But again, a lot of good fond memories. Left school. I am probably at that point, I think I got mixed up with the wrong crowd, as you do.
What happened?
I think just socially just got mixed up with the wrong people. I think a lot of kids are there. You left school with not much GCSEs, or I had no GCSEs, to be honest with you. I got into boxing, and my focus was really just that. And then at that age, you start to get out drinking, and then the obvious fighting in towns, as you do.
Especially like back then as well. Was that 80s and that? Like,
well, that was...
We were talking about that earlier, weren't you? How rife it was.
What, 1997, 1996. But, we just drove past the 051 and the Buzz around the corner. They were all the places that I grew up as a young lad, just transitioning into the town, getting out and... But no, so everything was really good. As I say, got mixed up with a few wrong things as a young lad, and the boxing was really my focus. And it was my dad that really was drumming it home to me. Look, you need to go away in the army. There's not much here for you. And to be honest with you, I didn't get it. I wasn't really into joining the army. I had no intention of going in the army. The only reason I sort of tried it and was just to pacify my dad. That was the whole point of it. I thought, right, I'll go for 2 weeks. I'll see what it's like, and then I'll make me excuses for whatever that is, and I can come back and then draw a line under that. So for months and months and months, I was saying to Dad, I'm going to go to the army. And for months and months, you go through this slow process of signing this, visit here, go here. And then I ended up going to Lichfield for a test. You go down, do your physical test, and at the end of it, he was like, yep, you're good to go. So the course starts on Monday. Bring your paperwork right back
on Monday.
On Monday. This is like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Bring your paperwork back to the recruiting office, and you can start training in phase 1 training on Monday. I was like, what? So on the train back, I was texting a couple of friends, as you do. It's like, I'm going to the army on Monday. It's actually happened. So he said, right, we'll get out and have a couple of beers tonight and stuff. So it's a funny story. So I gets in the car, he picks me up at the airport, at the train station. I said, I've got all this paperwork. He went, don't worry, put it under my seat of the car. Puts it under the seat of the car.
Who said that?
Me mate at the time. Puts it under the seat of the car. We goes out drinking. Comes back in the car, goes to the next pub, have a couple of drinks, and does it again. Goes to get a pull by the police, and he takes off. He said, I've got no car insurance, and I've had a drink. So he parks the car in a neighbouring road. We gets out, we goes to town, thought nothing else of it, completely forgot about the paperwork that was under the chair.
Totally crashed yourself up with all your paperwork in there.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, he comes back to the car. There's no car there. They come and tow the car away. He rings us up at like 3 a.m, and said, the car's gone. I'm like, where's my paperwork? 8 o'clock in the morning. It must be probably early, about 7 o'clock in the morning. Police at the door. So I was obviously taken in, questioned about a car chase last night, paperwork under it, told them my story. They wasn't believing it. They thought the car was mine. So this was, obviously I was meant to be starting training on the Monday. I had to ring the army up and tell them the situation. My dad went to the police station and pleaded with them, look, he's going in the army, he's trying to reform his life, blah, blah, blah. And eventually they went, right, okay, the car was gone. They gave me the tick in the box and I joined training about 4 or 5 weeks later.
Oh, good.
So I very, very, very nearly didn't actually even get to the start point in the army. But no, I got there and it was up in Scotland, probably the furthest point in Glencorse. Don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
So he goes up there.
Is that where phase 1 training was held?
Yeah. So obviously Scottish dominated all the corporals up there and everything else. And took into there. As I said, only planned on being there for a week or so. And actually, I was taken up by the moment. It was just, I was overwhelmed by like the sense of, I know it sounds a bit cheesy and corny, but that whole phrase of be belongs to something bigger than yourself really did hit home. I was like, I was a part of a team. They needed me. I needed them. For me to tap out after 2 weeks and leave them would it wasn't a done thing right from the off. That whole spirit of, being a part of a team just completely captivated me. 26 years later, 26 years later, I'm still there. Well, I decided to leave not long ago, but still very heavily involved in the military. So, that got me into the army. That was sort of my transition into there. And then we spent, I think it was a 12-week program up to do from Scotland.
Yeah, so your basic training. So you went in, what year would you?
So that would have been 1999.
Yes, I joined 94. So it would have been in exactly the same process that I went through where we did 10 or 12 weeks it was for basic training in Lichfield, we did ours. You did yours in Glencorse, but then you went to the ITC. I don't know if it was called that at the time. Was it called ITC?
ITC.
For Catterick, for the infantry training. Yeah. And then there was Para-Reg in Hellis.
Yeah, you went one side of the road and
we
were on the other side of the road. No, so, that was exactly the
so it's the same. It was the same system.
So gets up to Scotland, as you can imagine, a wiry Scouse kid, thought I knew it all. So I was 19. Actually, I was a little bit older than the average
you would have
junior soldier who was joining. So I had a little bit more life experience, a little bit more rough around the sides. So that just attracted the corporal's attention,
In a bad way, or?
Yeah. So they just, they were intrigued by it all. It turns up, gobbing off.
Scousers are always the gobby ones, aren't they, in the platoons?
But everyone who joined, what I found is everyone that joined the army at the time, they all knew what they were joining, what regiment they were going, some sort of lay down, the rank structure. I just assumed the army was an army. It was one big, massive unit. I had no concept of anything. As I say, I had no intention of staying there longer than a week. So it was like, I didn't understand the discipline. I didn't understand speaking to the corporals correctly and bracing up and all that. I just spoke to them like I was speaking to anyone on the street. That went down like a lead balloon to the point where the corporals got me to the office. And I remember it like it was yesterday. They got me to the office in the night. They were all sitting in this communal room, what they used to watch the telly with, and all the rest of the office, all the rest of the recruits were sort of in the bed spaces. He gets me there and they start quizzing me about where I've come from, blah, blah, blah. And he says, look, I am going to break you. I must have been obviously speaking bad to them back. And I was like, are you? He's like, yeah, we're going to break you. I promise you now, we will break you by the end of this course is finished. So every single night after the day's activity, I had to come back to the room where the corporals were sitting, watching telly and mark time, while they just called me Scouse, horrible, just absolutely slated me for being a Scouser and being gobby. And I stood there for hours and hours every night, dripping in sweat, to go back to my bed at 10 o'clock, get my head down, and we've done it again and again and again. But you know what? I think I gained the respect for them, believe it or not, and I think they did me eventually. And by the time I got to the end of it, I was a better person for it. I knew a bit of etiquette. I knew how to brace up, and I think we just found a nice piece of mutual ground. But I think that was like really the start of me changing as coming from Liverpool, going through the army and transitioning to become like, a good human being as such.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So at what stage did you choose your regiment then? Did you do it when you were in phase 2, or did you already have to do it before you'd signed up?
I think that was done in the careers office. Yeah. I think the very fact I went to Liverpool and the recruitment.
Standard, Kingo's.
I was either, I think unless you go there and you specifically ask that you want to join the Paras or the Marines, that's sort of where you're going to go.
Yeah.
And that was a fight to get there. There was a queue to get there. In the Kings, it was just standard soldiering. Yeah. I went in there with no expectation. It was like, you'll be a great Kingo. Yeah. Great soldier in the King's Regiment.
I don't think people realise outside of Liverpool how many people go in that regiment. There's like loads, isn't it? Especially, it's not around now, is it, that regiment? But if you go back our generation and then before, I know lots of people that had gone on to do other things in the military or onto Marines and parachute regiment, but had started off in the Kings. Because
it was primarily Liverpool and Manchester.
Is it Manchester as well, is it?
So there's just two, and they're very similar. The personalities, they speak a little bit different and all that, but there's the same personalities. So as you can imagine, we just got on like a house on fire.
I thought Manx and Liverpudlians didn't get on.
But they do there. Unless there's obviously Liverpool's playing out Man City or something. There's complete divides. But I think for everything else, it's, as characters and where you come from. And
very similar, aren't they?
Very similar. So,
Gobby Northerners.
Completely. In one. So, so, I mean, as I've done ITC Catterick, that was an experience.
How did you get on?
Yeah, I think I was good. I was... as I say, I was 19. I was a little bit more developed than most people. I had a bit more...
Do you think that helped you?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
There was like 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who hadn't developed as much as probably what I had done at that point. So whilst the training was hard, I found it a bit easier than most people. And being very competitive anyway, I wanted to be at the front. I had naturally just tried to be the best I could be during it. So, I enjoyed the whole training. There's ups and downs, as you can imagine, and, going on the exercises. But I think I started to really enjoy it. But I think the thing that really got me, as I said before, was just being a part of something else. I had friends, I had an identity in Liverpool, but actually I started to build a new one in the army.
Kind of reinvented yourself a little bit, did you?
Yeah, I think you just see things differently. And, your role models growing up in Liverpool, are fantastic, great. But actually, I was now looking up to a corporal or a sergeant, 25, 26, had a lovely car, great family. I just think, the values were different and, you could see it was heading off on a different path. And I thought, obviously all the good stuff my dad had said is, he was right. And it was actually, that's probably where I needed to be. Do you know what I mean? That's what I needed to stay. I realised very, very quickly there was not much gap in Liverpool for me.
Yeah. So
I completely invested myself in the army. But then, like you say, you get to the King's Regiment and it's just like being back in Liverpool again, so you have all the same RLRs, you have all the same, hard cases and as you would do anywhere else. And you've got to fight your way,
there's a pecking order in battalions,
Listen, completely. So I got there on day one and as I said, my previous, encounters in Liverpool of fighting and whatever on a Friday, Saturday and a Sunday night sort of caught me up. One of the lads or a couple of the lads I'd had a fight. I didn't know this. And the plan was when I got to the battalion.
They knew you were?
Yeah, they were going to do me in. Yeah. And they were going to bed leg me. So,
all right. Tell us what happened then.
So, yeah, I didn't get bed leg, let's put it that way. So I get there and I had a friend there at the time, Toe Curran, and he told me, he said, look, there's a couple of lads there, you've pissed them off, they're going to come and get you later on. So just make sure to lock my door. I think over a couple of days, there was a bit of a standoff thing, but no one ever really said anything, but there was a bit of intention there to do it. I think when the time had come, I think they seen their arse and didn't really follow it through. But that was the sort of place, you were growing up in. And that was up in Preston, up in Wheaton Barracks. So it was like I moved away, but then I was brought back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Quite close to home.
They would post you, that regiment, quite locally in the northwest then, would they?
Yeah,
so
on that one did, yeah. And many years later we come back as well. But we got there and as I said, come from a big boxing background and as I got there, and that's a big boxing battalion. That's like literally, if you say King's Regiment, in the next words out your mouth, it should be boxing. It sort of falls hand in hand. So luckily I got there and the company novices were happening like 4 weeks later. So it goes into the Sergeant Major, said, look, super keen boxer, I can box. I've had X and many fights, 20 odd fights at that time it was. He went, that's fantastic. But you've had no fights, lose your card, and you can box.
Yeah, you can't. That's too many, isn't it, for the amateurs?
Under,
you got
10,
under 10 it is.
Under 10.
Yeah.
So I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, just like this conversation didn't happen. You do not box.
They wanted you fighting for the battalion, that's why, didn't they?
Yeah. So they want for the company, some other company. So as I say, I've got loads of mates in Liverpool. It was only down the road in Wheaton Barracks. So it gets to as you can imagine, I get to bye to the final. So we're boxing in the final, and I'm sure you've been in many military events, and the RSM stands up there, stood to attention, and everyone braces up. I brought about 40 mates on a bus who had no concept of the army, all drunk, pissed.
Oh, you allowed civilians in to watch that then?
They did, yeah, on this evening. And they're all singing their heads off at the back. So the RSM stands up, and they're all singing my name. So it was like, who's this guy? who is he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like very quickly I got to make friends within the battalion, got known within the battalion, the hierarchy, got to know me.
What happened in the fight?
Yeah. So we went out. It's sad to say, it's nothing you should be bragging about, to be honest with you, but I went out, we knocked him out in about, 20, 30 seconds or something. But, he'd never boxed before. It's just that. But in my defence, everyone was at it. Every company was at it. Every battalion was at it. So we established the King's Regiment boxing team, and that was in 2001. And on the back of that, we got all the way to the finals and beat the Paras in the finals. I think that was the last time the King's Regiment won it. The Lancs have just won it last year, and I think you're talking 20 odd years from the last time we won it. But like that boxing team,
I think the Parachute Regiment won it for 16 years in a row, haven't they? Since then, I think they. But occasional loss. And
I will say the Paras obviously transfer people around battalions and make sure they've got the best team in the one location. So the word has it. But no, I think that year it was just by fortunate we had loads of people from Manchester, Liverpool, who again had boxed, loads of boxing experience, who had also lost their cards and got there. But like I say, it was no different to the Paras and anyone else who were boxing. The standard of boxing on the evenings for like lads with 2 fights was like nothing you've ever seen.
I know, yeah.
2 fights, like what?
Difference between army boxing and normal boxing as well, isn't it? It's a lot more aggressive and on the front foot, and which is great as a spectator sport to watch, isn't it? If you take people along to watch it.
No, fantastic.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, you're getting established in your battalion then.
So we get there, and I say, feet didn't touch the floor. We'd done the boxing. I think we flew out to Kenya at the time. We'd done like a Grand Prix exercise. Like, it was really the first time of getting out of the country.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
Brilliant, aren't they?
Brilliant.
The big exercises.
Amazing. So, but again, they were all just massive life experiences, going out, different countries, different cultures, getting to know the world. We come back, and then we were straight out into Northern Ireland. So that was the rotation of the battalion at the time. So we were doing I think it was 2-month tours in Besbrook Mill in South Armagh in Northern Ireland.
2-month tour?
Just 2 months.
That's all right as well.
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
So you were just bouncing in and out. Went back, done the Drumcree riots. Obviously being a big fella, 6 foot, doing the boxing.
Straight at the front.
You're the 4 foot shield guy.
Yeah.
You're in the snatch wagons, and you're going to be on the QRF, and you're going to go out in the middle of the night and with your RoboCop kit on. That was an experience. You think you know it all until you turn up on them streets, and there's a 50-year-old man, with a can of lager in his hand, and he's up for it. That was an eye opener. But no, some great encounters out there, and I say some great experiences that we had with the boys and that.
Brilliant. Sounds great. So you advanced quite quickly, didn't you, through your career? Speaking to you, weren't you like one of the youngest sergeants or sergeant majors or both within the infantry at one stage?
Yeah. So it was fortunate really that people had gone on these courses and not done too well. So
the courses, just for anyone listening,
junior Brecon, senior Brecon,
which are known within the military for being some of the hardest courses you can do, aren't they? They're fucking horrible. They're not nice courses, are they?
No.
And it's not an attendance only either, is it?
No.
You've got
no one's got any qualms of taking you off the course, or you passing off the course, taking yourself off it. So, I was fortunate. So I'd done Iraq and everything else, and then long before Iraq, there was a pre-course, and the CO was keen that the best person on the pre-card went.
For juniors, was this?
For juniors, not necessarily the most senior, which was always the case.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of career management and stuff. So I got given a bit of a wild card because I was obviously the youngest there, but 2 years in the army.
So how old are you at this point? 21 then?
22.
Yeah.
Goes down and does fantastically well on the course. Comes in the top third, right at the top of the course, and comes back. CO was delighted. And then got promoted more or less instantaneously on the back of that. So I was a corporal, as you say,
a full screw or a lance jack?
A full screw, yeah.
Do you do a lance jack qualification in the...
Yeah, I did. So that was...
Do you have one? Because it's drilling duties that we did in the Paris. Do you have the same for... Or is there an equivalent course, was there?
Yeah, so it's the same. It's a junior NCO card.
Yeah,
exactly the same sort of concept as what the Paras were.
Yeah, so it's basically like a mini juniors, isn't it?
Yeah. But at least juniors is regulated to a degree, and someone's assured it. At the time, then when we done this, it was just some company commander, some captain and a platoon sergeant were told to go and plan an exercise, a 12-week exercise, NCO cadre. We got took to Otterburn training area, and to this day, that was probably the hardest course to date I have ever done.
Yeah,
I think there was 80 people started the course. There was 17. I could probably name 12 of them off the top of my head now, who have all gone on to be sergeant majors plus commissioned officers. Some have even gone to special forces, who were on that card. It genuinely made us. It broke many, but I think those that had the will to carry on,
went on to do bigger and better things. Yeah.
It was an absolute, I mean, I'll talk later on about it, but I haven't done selection and everything else. Didn't touch the sides to the pain and the anguish I went through on that course. I tell you now, there was people breaking their legs, lost toes. It was scandalous. Yeah. But we got through that. Got me Lance Corporal, as I mentioned. Went on to become a section commander. And then I got that, and that was just when the Iraq War kicked off.
Best job in the British Army as well, isn't it?
At the best
Would you
time.
say that still now, going all the way through?
100%.
Yeah.
At that, I mean, it's situationally based, isn't it? Depends what's going on.
Of course.
But actually, with the Iraq War just kicking off.
So Telic 2.
Telic 2.
Yeah.
So, Telic 1 was short and sharp.
Yeah.
They gained the ground, and then we sort of turned up in Telic 2. Quite a memorable, probably one of the better tours, as you say, being a section commander. It was.
Did you have a bit of action when you was over there as well on Telic 2? Is that right? Do you want to?
Yeah. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, there was lots going on all around the place, but our tour specifically, we were landed in Kuwait, and there was like acclimatisation out in the desert with a
running twice a day. So
that was horrendous.
What was you doing?
I've never felt heat like that. The acclimatisation was just sit outside the tent for as long as you can, literally to the point where you were nearly passing out, to get back into some sort of cover to try and rehydrate again. It was that bad. There was early morning walks about 4 o'clock in the morning to get your cardio up. But that being, for the first time in my life, really, hitting a place, Kuwaiti desert, was unbelievable. So we spent a couple of weeks in the desert, and then one night we get bussed into Basra. Our company at the time was A Company. We took over a place called Fort Apache. So the other companies, they were split across the Basra city centre. Some were in the palace, and some were somewhere else. So we sort of took over there. Our rotation there was camp security, patrols. There was a near police station just down the road, which was like a sort of forward operating base that we operated within, just to give ourselves a bit of depth. And then there was the patrol matrix going on. So, I mean, one of the first encounters we got from the police station, we were in there. There was a couple of contacts, and you get a bit, nothing too bad, just rounds going over camp, nothing too crazy. But one day we were in the police station. It was the first real sort of incident that I did encounter. We were all sitting in the police were on one side, the Iraqi police, and we were on the other side of this courtyard. Like there was a wall in between us, and someone had come down the road and thrown a grenade over the wall. Not luckily, but it landed their side, not ours. So they took a bit of frag, as you say. Everything wobbled a little bit. It was a bit of a shock. The Sangha opens up and stuff like that down the street. So we quickly gets our clothes on, our body armours and helmets on, and off down the road we go, just to try and see what was going on. There was a couple of casualties in the courtyard, but most of the police had extracted out up the road towards the market area. So, as you can imagine, as we turned the road and got to the street corner, you could see right along, there was 2 cars in the road, doors open, with the police sort of firing either side of them, indiscriminately, I'd say, just down the road, AK-47s, no sights on them. So cautiously, like genuinely, we comes up the side of the road and appeals them out to sort of face the direction where they were firing, to try and understand what was going on and where, who were they firing at. As I get behind the car, I'm sort of like trying to pull one of the police across to see what was happening with the interpreter. And I just had an explosion from the side of my face. I turned, and what had happened was, quickly realised one of the police had an ND next to my head, but it had hit the floor and whistled past my ears. You could feel it going right past So I quickly just turned, not knowing what had happened, and obviously point my rifle at him, and it was just that like second or 2 seconds, not even a second, a millisecond to think. I realised that he'd done it by mistake. It wasn't that he was trying to,
How did you know that? With his look on his face?
The look on his face, literally. It was a moment, but I think that's all you get.
Yeah.
But luckily that it was enough for me to realise that he knew he'd made a mistake. So, I took him down to the floor, took the weapon off him.
Just beat the shit out of him instead.
Yeah. No, so he got taken down, and then, it was carnage. No one knew what was going on, so it was the best thing was just to get out of there. Pulls back to the police station, and I think that was the sort of first time I'd been in like a sort of military, threatening sort of environment, and it did haunt me for a couple of days or a couple of hours. The
possibility of what could have happened? Absolutely.
I think I go back and I was thinking, I could feel it. It was like it still had it on the side of my face,
like a Donald Trump assassination.
Yeah. So it was a bit, and them rounds, them AK-40 the short ones, the thick, they do gather a lot of momentum.
Yeah, I've never had one go past my face like that.
So that was sort of bad there. And at the same time, as that just finished, on the other side of the country, in up in Almara, there was an incident with 7 R&P police.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, there was an encounter with, I think it was involved in one
para. My stepbrother, Lee Smith, was involved in that.
Yeah.
He said he fucking didn't think he was going to get out of it alive.
No, I mean, that was a real...
Do you want to tell us about that one? Because you was involved in that one.
I don't know that...
their side of the stuff.
So from what the story says is one para were, planning on going through the town and on a normal patrol, met by a crowd. That, the interpreter got it wrong, but they didn't want them in the town. They kept on pressing, bottles were thrown, baton guns were fired, and then eventually that just turned into a full-on
conflict. Yeah. No, I know that they were stuck there, and they had to wait to get taken back.
There's stories written about it, there's books and stuff. It was a real crunchy contact. Earlier on in the morning, from what I can understand, the R&P, 6-7 R&P, had gone to the police station in Al-Majad al-Kabir to train the police. They had radios, but supposedly they weren't on. They were left in the vehicles, and comms wasn't the best. The communication wasn't the best. So there was a bit of, they didn't really know where they were on the ground. One paddle obviously had got into contact, and they sort of they took over the situation. Ops rooms ringing, helicopters up, and it was all out. And the R&Ps at the time were sort of stuck in the police station. So as that sort of settled down, the crowd sort of turned and headed towards the police station because they knew there were soldiers in there. Unfortunately, terribly, they were all killed in that police station.
Yeah, did they surrender or something first and then gave the weapons over? Is that what happened or not?
I don't know. I mean, there was an incident.
Or did they fight their way? I don't think they, I can't remember. I don't know all the details now. I don't think they did.
I think they were completely overwhelmed. And I think, given the situation, the size of the crowds and stuff.
Yeah, it's an unwinnable battle that they were facing.
Whatever decision they made, it just ended up really bad. So on the back of that, they realised there was no real armoured vehicles, and we were in Warriors at the time. They had some tanks up there, some Charlie 2s. But the Warriors were quite nimble around the cities and around the roads, and you can get round everywhere. So a company from the palace, it was C Company, I think, they were requested to come down and take over that police station the day later or the following day. So as you can imagine, that was just a police station with no defence. They got up there in that time. We were told, A Company, you will be the company that will move up to Almara, and you'll be living and patrolling that sort of area, and sort of just controlling the area. What had happened is they got there, contact most days as they were filling them up. The engineers were trying to fill up the sandbags and the ESCO baskets, but that was difficult. They had snipers on the roof and such. So by the time they were close to finishing that, we sort of turned up and then took over that police station and sort of manned that on a rotation from. There was a platoon in the police station. We had one on Danny Boy, which was the junction that led into Al-Majad al-Kabir. That was only one of the main roads coming in and out. So anything that was coming in and out, it would have to pass through that checkpoint. And then we had another platoon back up in Almara, which was one of the big bases. Most days that police, it wasn't the best place to live, as you can imagine. The stuff that had happened there, not the best. And the crowds that obviously done the murders were the same crowds that were coming back daily, disputing us being there and petrol bombing the place, mortaring the place most nights, rounds coming in. I mean, we sat there one evening, an RPG, not a kid you not, it was like slow motion. An RPG had been fired outside the camp, and it literally, as slow as you like, comes flying over the top of the camp, and you're like looking up as it flies over. Luckily they weren't very good at shots.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been worse, a lot worse. But there was a lot of contacts there. There was a lot of activity that went on there. Like I say, most nights we were mortared. It was only a small camp, so the chance of them hitting the camp with the mortar bombs, like I say, they weren't very well trained, so they were all over the place. I think they caused more damage to themselves than what they did us in the police station. there were small patrols, but we tried to stay out of the town because we were just not welcome in there, and it would have took a lot of effort to get in there. At that time, obviously, there was a big emphasis on trying to find the people that done the murders, out the crowd. So obviously, other units, more than better than our ones, were sort of patrolling the area. They were coming into our location, observing from the Sangers, and with intelligence, they figured out who had done it, and they knew where they lived through satellites and drones and everything else. So there was a plan constructed that actually they would go and do an arrest stop at early hours in the morning. But the problem was you could get in soft-skin vehicles, but you couldn't get back out, because as soon as it went noisy, that town would literally just lock itself down, and a terrible incident happened again. So the idea was, with us being on the Warriors, we'd sit on the outside of the town.
Okay, got to cut off. Yeah. On
the outside, they'd go in.
Keep a clear route out.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So as they went in, as it went noisy, we'd then drive in the Warriors. So we'd drive into these locations pre-designated. It was a simultaneous attack. I think there was 3 or 4 locations across that city. They went in, and then we come from the sides into the city in the Warriors, and then drag them into the Warrior vehicles to get them out, because they were armoured. They could take rounds and everything else, because the soft-skin vehicles coming out wouldn't have lasted minutes. So we get up to our location, gets out the back, got the commander in the top. I'm the dismount commander at the time. And as you say, like 4 o'clock in the morning it was at the time. Even then, there was still, I'd say 40, 50 people. And, seconds were counting down at 50, 60 people, 70 people. Luckily, they get them out the house. We get them in the back of the vehicle. By that time, they tried to close the road off. They parked two vehicles.
Is that what they did then? Is their tactics? They'd use anything just to block it all off?
Just to block us all in and keep us in there.
The time's of the essence, really, because you can't keep everyone off, can you?
No, it was like precision. We were holding them off, like, get back and stuff. But luckily, we get them into the vehicle. And the driver at the time and the commander, as I say, he was saying, look, the road's getting blocked off. We need to go. 2 cars, he just drove right over the top of the vehicles, squashed the 2 of them, and off they went into the Ulu. They were dropped off in the desert in a pre-designated DP, and then obviously taken away for questioning at that point there. But as you can imagine, then the aftermath of that, the next day in the city, then we had to go back to that police station. There was thousands again around there.
Yeah.
I'm talking, we were on the roofs that, we'd pulled right back to the rooftops, weapons loaded, bear in mind, it was only a few months earlier, terrible things had happened in there. The same crowd approached. But I think they knew this time people were a bit more prepared and a bit more willing to act. So luckily, that day, didn't end up a terrible one, and everyone come out all right.
Sounds like a pretty...
it was a crunchy day.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like very full.
Yeah, well, the crowd comes from the top of the road, because they were formed up in the city, and then they sort of marched around, and you can see them coming down the road, all the way down. With
the dangers of big crowds, what can happen from experience in Northern Ireland as well. Just remember the...
But, when you look back at that, I mean, you're talking 20 years ago now.
It's crazy, isn't it?
They were just young lads. I was 22 years old. There was lads there 18 years old. You've got a son, 18 years old. Imagine him being in that situation now.
I know, yeah.
They can't
crazy.
even make the beds.
Yeah.
Never mind, go and defend a police station in the middle of nowhere.
You don't feel like a kid though, do you? It's mad. You feel like you're an invincible man.
I think when you give people responsibility, they live up to it.
Yeah.
And the army gets that right. They empower people to do a good job, and that's what they go and do.
Absolutely.
But no, so that tour was absolute mega tour, absolute.
That's what any soldier would want, isn't it? Action, obviously a certain amount of action, and coming out of it, unscathed, and
and load of lessons, load of experience, load of dits to spin. They're just good times. And luckily, none of our lads got injured. And,
sounds perfect.
Yeah.
So you come back from there. Then you was already a junior NCO at that stage. Then, and then you went on to seniors after that. I'd imagine, is that right? Seniors after you come back from Iraq.
No. So what happened was I come back and I went straight to ITC Qatar.
Oh, did you? As a full screw, yeah.
So my junior days were just unbelievable. From a soldiering perspective, operations, exercises, operations, ITC Qatar, teaching young lads to be soldiers.
You're getting a vast amount of experience there at a very young age as well, aren't you?
And I think coming back from Iraq as well, everyone was intrigued about the stories and the experience, because there was people who were there who had not done that. So obviously you sort of put yourself in a.
That was
in a
the
good
first
place.
time for a long time that British troops had been engaged as well, wasn't it? If you think, was that the first one? And obviously after that, Afghan happened, and that was a whole different ball game. I'm sure you got some stories about that as well. But you know, up to that point, really, there wasn't much that had been going on.
No,
there was Telic 1, wasn't there? But not
Northern
much.
Ireland, obviously.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland was terrible.
Yeah, there was.
You know, the times there. So I think they had been engaged, and you know there was, but I think that was different. It was a bit of like, it felt like a bit of war fighting for the first time. So love them days in ITC Catterick, you know, teaching young lads how to become soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, I remember saying to some of the lads, I could go in that room at 2:00 in the morning and say, come on, let's get up. We're going to go and rob a bank. And they'd follow you.
Yeah.
That's how much influence and that's how much they looked up to you, because they really genuinely trusted you. But you had to value that trust and obviously use it wisely, because they would literally follow you to the end of the earth and back.
Yeah.
You know, I still speak to people now, you know, who are now Sergeant Majors, who are now RSMs, who I trained in training, and they'll go, oh, I remember them times.
Yeah, well, you had a massive impact as a depot instructor. You have a massive impact on the recruits' lives.
Yeah.
They look up to you like a dad almost, isn't it? Or a big brother and uncle or something.
So like on one of the week 6, the parents come for the first time, so they drop them all off, and they're all a bit raggedy, and they all look terrible, and they've bought a suit from somewhere for 50 quid.
It doesn't fit.
So dad's suit stood there on day one, like, look at me trying to be smart, and then you know. At that point there, you take everything off them, you strip them back, you give them all a set of combats. No one's better than anyone else. And you start from nothing. You learn them how to brush the teeth, how to get washed, how to make a bed. I mean, I used to stand bolloco in the shower, showing them how to wash your body. And that's just something you take for granted. But actually they were there going, what you washed under your arms? And, you know, but you had to do it because they were going to send them out into the field. So that was sort of the extent. And on week 6, I used to love it. I used to say, right, when you're stood by your beds, your parents are going to come in the room. Don't look left, right. Don't look right. Don't look left. You just look straight forward. You don't react until I say. And they stood there like, you know, like proper soldiers at this point. And the parents are coming out, oh, Johnny. And he stood there like, steely eyes, you know. And they're like, what have you done to him? And you stand them at ease, and then you go crack on, and the parents just like, oh my God, what's up? 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What you can do in 6 weeks with people.
Yeah, especially if they're keen. Yeah. They've got to work with soldiering, hasn't it? They've got to be up for it.
They've got to be up for it, Like it was for me, it was making them part of a team.
Yeah.
You know, if they knew it wasn't letting themselves down, but they were letting someone else down, I think that's even more impactful.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
what I mean? You can have self-pride, but then if you're not working for your team, that's not good, is it?
No, definitely.
So that was, again, an experience, loads of life lessons, you know, really, at that point was my first encounter of how people worked, how to try to manage people, get the most from them, and that's where I love seeing people get on. That's my buzz. I like helping people to see them sort of improve, and I think at that point then that was where I sort of tasted it. Yeah, definitely.
So then you come back from there. You did seniors, and how old were you when you got made up? Because didn't you get made up quite early and almost unnecessarily, or like they didn't want you to because you were too young or something?
Yeah. So what happened was, when I was in ITC Catterick, like I said to you, they sent 2 corporals down who had been in the army 10 years. So they sent them because they were the most senior, not necessarily the best. So they get on senior brechen, gets to the end of senior brechen, and then gets a stand-up fail. So they come back to ITC Catterick, and the commanding officer, as you can imagine, is being sent letters like, why are you sending these people down here? Bad attitudes, wouldn't take a knee, So he said, right, we're going to run a pre-course. The best goes, and we want to. So, as you can imagine, that's where all the best corporals are in the army, supposedly.
Of course, yeah.
So we ran that course. Luckily, I come top of the course, and but they said, look, you've only been in 4 years at this point. 4.5 years. They said you're too young, so. You're
just going to do the course, but you're not going to get made up or something. Is that what it was?
No, you can't go on the course. So I was like, well, I've been sold a bit of a bum deal. So anyway, I went down as a travelling reserve, get on the back of the group. So as you do the CFT day one, it's 8 miler, and anyone falls off, you sort of like go on, get to the front, you're in sort of thing. So again, another one falls off, go on, you're in, sort of belt to the front. And I was on the course, you know, rings the unit up on Monday and goes, listen, I'm on the course. They were like, good luck, see you in at 12 weeks time. Course was horrendous, another hard course. That was the first time they took them to Kenya. Normally it's done in Brecon.
Oh, you did it in Kenya?
So we'd done the final X in Kenya. So there was loads of it done in Brecon. But the final exercise itself, we flew out to Kenya, but no one had been there, no one had recce'd it properly. There was issues with getting ammunition out there and stuff like that.
So it's not as good as an idea as it had seemed.
No, on paper, it's all money in it. So
I think it's probably hard. Brecken's probably one of the worst places to soldier anyway, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Until you're stuck in that and stuck in the Kenya desert.
Oh yeah, then
Wadis,
it's a whole different
with like
game
a
then,
bottle
isn't
of
it?
water sucking on the top of it, trying to save your life. So that was arduous. Again, I finished that and I come like top of the course, but I didn't tell anyone on the course how long I'd been in because it was a bit intimidating. As you can imagine, everyone there, 12 years plus, 8 years, 12 years.
You've done 4 years at this stage and you're on
4.5
seniors.
Years, yeah. So I just kept my mouth shut. And it wasn't until I got to the end and I got my final report. He's looking at me and he went, when did you join? And he'd done the maths on it. And I was like, what? But
He'd already done it at that stage.
But I'd already made me impression. He'd already given me my grade. Do you know what I mean? But I think if
what was your grade on it?
I think I come on top of the top third.
Did
so
you?
Yeah. Obviously the para lads and the SAS lads, they get top slots, but you're competing at the top. And they're all good.
You got the best people in the British Army on that course, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like you say.
Yeah. So I made an impact on that.
Yeah.
And,
so the top of the top thirds.
So I come back to ITC Catterick and they were delighted. So great report coming back. Here's your local rank of sergeant. So 4.5 years.
So you're what age then?
24, 25.
That's a really young age for a sergeant.
Yeah.
Did you say that was probably one of the youngest?
Yeah.
If not the young, was it the youngest at the time?
I mean, I don't know anyone that at the time who
I don't know anyone
that's
that's been sergeant at 24, to be honest with you.
There's probably other units that
there's probably been,
but I think doing juniors,
not infantry regiments
seniors,
though. It's normally they're a lot more senior, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because you've got to get juniors and seniors out of the way, and they're both horrible courses that no one really wants to get on.
Yeah,
are they? No one really like.
But they're the only way to get on in infantry. If you want to promote,
you've just got to get them done, haven't you?
They're just 2 battle courses. You've got to get smashed. So I get promoted, Sergeant Fleming, absolutely delighted. Returned from ITC Catterick, so I was like, what's that on your chest? I'm like, I'm a sergeant. He's like, no, you're not. He said, get it off, right? He said, you're not.
When was this back at your unit?
Yeah, it goes back to unit.
So what unit? You're still in the Kings at that point, or
Kings Regiment still. He goes, look, you're too junior. Great, you've done the course, fantastic. He said, but you've just got to wait your turn. You've got another 2 years to do because you've got to do 4 years substantive or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, deflated.
I bet.
Sans mess, back into the block with the general population.
Shit.
Fucking people crying overnight and fucking parties all over the place. So about 4 or 5 months later, the board from Glasgow sits. So it's out of the show's hands. But he never writ my report. He would writ at ITC Catterick. So I got 2 OY1s at the time, which were like top reports. If you get 2 consecutively, you get Excel promotion. So I got promoted on the board after he'd already give these ranks out to people. And he's got me in the office.
Above him then, so that had already been taken.
That had been out
of his hands.
He calls me in the office and said, look, made a bit of a boo-boo here, right? Like that, I've given them away. He said, look, there's another option. We're amalgamating in a couple of months' time to become the Duke of Lancaster's regiment from the Kings. There's a job, a space, sergeant in Germany, if you want to go there. I was like, I want to be a sergeant. So got me sergeants in the car and off I went. So sergeants in like 4 or 5 years.
That's brilliant, mate.
Nailed. And that was when I went to Germany. And then that got me to 2006. I think it was June the 6th, 2006 was the amalgamation of the Queen's, the Duke of Lancaster, was the King's Own Law Border, the QLR, and the King's Regiment. So the 3 units amalgamated into 2. And they were then called the Duke of Lancaster.
How was that when that happened? Was it like an uproar? Was everyone really pissed off, or was it taken well? Because I can't imagine that going down.
I think, as you can imagine, we're tribals, aren't we? So it was like, well, we were lucky in the sense that 1 Lancs became 2 Lancs. So they sort of stayed formed. The QLR sort of stayed 1 Lancs. And it was the KORBR that got disbanded into the 2. So it was the KORBR, I think, that really took the blunt of it. We got a new bit of branding and a bit of name changing, but the Kingos were still called Kingos as part of the deal when we come across.
Do you have your cap badge still then?
So no, the cap badge changed to the Duke of Lancaster's badge.
But you were still classed as the Kingos.
But because it was a great thing to have and it was, unique thing to have, not everyone else is a private, and we were called Kingo. So that was one of the things.
I didn't know that.
So that was one of the things that got carried across, which that went in our favour. And there was things from the previous cap badge, their cap badge, and everyone else's cap badge that made.
They did that with, what's it called? It used to be the light infantry, and then they made it into the rifles, didn't they? They kept bits, mainly like the light infantry cap badge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there was that whole amalgamation went on in the British Army then, for people that don't know, with the infantry regiments, which in my opinion was such a shame, because that's what made the British Army unique. if you look at the American army, it's just
just
one
too big.
army
Yeah.
broken down into different segments, but there's no tribalism, there's no like regimental pride as much. With this, every single infantry regiment had its own cap badge, its own history, its own pride, and they all fucking hated each other, and they all competed against each other, but then they united in a war to make one big fighting team, didn't they?
But I mean, that was like anything, change at the start, people naturally resist it, and they did. But after a year and two,
It normalises then,
again,
doesn't
it
it?
just normalises, and now we've got our own history again, and it's like the Kings is a part of it, the QLR's a part of it, and the King's All Road Board is a part of it, as it is today, the Duke of Lancasters. So that was the sort of transition into Germany. Again, Adair flew back out to Iraq again. Shortly after that, they pulled out of the city at this point, and we were up in I think Schreiber Air Base.
Yeah,
we were patrolling there. So at the time there, I was the Armageddon platoon sergeant. So we were looking after 14 in tour. They were going out doing, connecting with the informants and stuff on the roadside. Didn't have much military experience. So we'd do like the VCPs and stuff, drive them out, do the military front, and they would gather information operation to be drawn from that. So that was, again, a really interesting new dynamic, something I'd never seen before in the way the army worked and how it was getting information, processing it, and how things were constructed on the back of it.
Yeah, seeing behind the curtains a little bit, aren't you, at that stage?
Yeah. But as well, I think for the lads there as well, that was the sort of first time we sort of seen Special Forces operating properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, I would like to have a little go with that.
Did you have a go? Did you do selection?
So on the back of that, then I went down then and started training for selection.
Yeah. What year was that?
That was, I think it was about 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
So on the back of that, went out, as I say, done the normal training. It is arduous. But then I got on the hills and I was just, everyone's got an excuse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've got the best excuses though. No, mine weren't. It was just, I got there and I just never had the will. It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've done that NCO card all the way back in, 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. But yet I succeeded.
But you wanted to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I needed to do that.
Yeah.
I never had an house. I never had a career. I had no money. I had no, reputation.
Yeah.
So I had a lot to gain. Fast forward now, 8 years. I'm a sergeant, soon to be CQMS.
Yeah.
I was flying. I had my own house. I had children. I had a wife. I had everything. Actually, if I would have passed that course, I was going out to Northern Ireland.
You'd have lost it all.
Months,
yeah.
On a 12-month tour and then probably 2 weeks off and then out to Iraq again.
Yeah.
So it was a case of like, that was probably in my subconscious. So, that's my excuse.
Yeah, no, of course.
No, but like, I just didn't need it. And I didn't, and the to get to the end of that course, you have got to want to be there. You can't just go, I'm just turning up to make the numbers up and I'll get to the end of it. You're doing it because you want it more than anything else in your life.
Yeah.
And I just don't think I did. I'd done the first week and a half. I went to the DS, and spoke to my OC and Sammy, and I said to him, looked at me, I said, I will die on this course before I fail this course or come off it. 2 weeks later, I'm like, staff, I volunteer withdrawal. I was like, what the hell? But that actually haunted me for years.
Why?
Because I'd not failed really anything up to that point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was wondering, I was like, why did it take me? Why at 4 o'clock in the morning did I feel a need to stand up, when the rain's coming in sideways and tell the DS that I don't want to be on the course anymore?
I think it's different, isn't it? If you want something just for bragging rights, like everyone wants to say they're in the SAS, wouldn't they? Yeah. It's the pinnacle of what you can say as a soldier, but the reality of actually doing it then is quite different, isn't it? So,
No, and I think, like I said, you've got to want it more than anything else in the world.
Yeah.
It is achievable, and I know lads who have gone and done it, and who's smashing it and, are in there doing great with it. But like I say, it's got to probably be the right time in your life and you've got to really want it.
Yeah.
But again, I come off that, bit of pill to swallow, bit of embarrassment and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But you live and you learn, don't you? And then on the back of that then, I got a job as, I was promoted to CQMS. It was what, 8 years in then. And then they sent me to Hereford. So back to where they are, SAS. But I was with SRR, Special Reconnaissance Regiment. So I got a job within their store system. So like with all the logistical side. I get there. Normally, they sent me there because I was progressing quickly.
You were colour sergeant at that stage?
Colour sergeant. Yeah. But what normally, I should have went to Sandhurst or went to Brecon as an instructor. But because I was progressing, they were like, right, you need just a job not to
slow you down a little bit.
Yeah, because there's only 2-3 ranks beyond that and you've got 22 years to accomplish it. So They sent me there, but I seen the quartermaster. I got there. I said, look, I've just come off selection, done juniors and seniors, game as you like. I'm not, I don't want to sit in the stores. So he's like, look, they're going out to Afghan. That's one of the squadrons. Do you want to jump on as the squadron rescue mess? I was like, yeah. So off I went with them. And again, as you can imagine, that was just a whole new world of operating responsibility. Really taught me, learned so bloody much. And being around people like that who were just completely driven and infused by it all, really inspiring. So I spent about 4 or 5 months out there with them, come back. My job at the time out there was just to manage all the kit and equipment, all the technical stuff, look after a couple of houses that they were operating within, and just support them really in operations. But no, it was an absolute privilege that, and it was
brilliant.
Yeah.
So you came back from there then, and you get made up or something to start major then. How old are you?
So it comes back CQMS of the companies. That's like the tick in the box you need. And then I think I got to sergeant. They promoted me to sergeant major. I think it was about 2010.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like 2011, sometime around there.
How old are you then?
Probably 30 years old.
30 years old. Yeah, that's young for a sergeant major, isn't it? Bloody hell.
Yeah, a company sergeant major.
Company sergeant major. And then while all that was going on, there was more evolution happening within the military, wasn't there? Because was it the specialised infantry or something?
That was a bit later on. So
was it?
Yeah, so we've done the sergeant major. I've done Harrogate as a sergeant. So I say, I had to spend a lot of time as a WO2 then. Yeah. Because I had like 10, 12, 14 more years still to push.
Oh, right, yeah.
With one more rank still to do.
So you've done it within 8 years, you become
so I've done
sergeant major.
Sergeant major, 10 years, because you do 24 now, you signed up.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I've done 2 years as sergeant major, went to Harrogate, the officer with the young soldiers, sergeant major there, and then went back to the training wing for training regiments, and then done sergeant major, training wing stuff, RQMS, back to Iraq a couple of times, and eventually was punching to become the regimental sergeant major. I did get offered regimental sergeant major many years before, each year, but I was never going to get the job I wanted, the top job, because I had too much time left. So there was always someone who was in that last little bit, because as you imagine, the jobs are like that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And you want to be at that RQMS appointment to be
at the right. So it's about timing as well, isn't it? Because I know a lot of good people
to be considered for the regimental sergeant major.
I know a lot of good people that have got to colour sergeant major and not made it to RSM, or they were going to get RSM, but it was posted away from where their battalion was. So it's all about timing as well, isn't it? Yeah.
So, but I had time, and it is about timing. So I was getting loads of like you can be the RSM at Portaloos down on Otterburn. I was like, nope. Or you can be, and I was like...
So you're holding back your promotion to get it where you wanted it, which is in your own unit.
Yeah, for me at that point, it stopped becoming about, the job title or the extra 150 quid a month I was going to earn. It was more the legacy. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I had, I'd worked too hard, too much, so I just bided my time.
It must have been amazing to be an RSM of your own unit, though. That is like the pinnacle.
But that's not guaranteed. And the year before, he says to me, look, this is not guaranteed. You're gonna throw this away now, potentially, and you mightn't get it next year.
I mean, you might not get promoted at all.
No, you mightn't get the job you want. So you might get sent somewhere else. So I put all my ducks in. I was like, right, no, I'm doing it. I'm gonna turn it down, and I'm gonna go again.
Okay, so you were made up to RSM then. So so you're RSM of the current regiment you're in, which was then the Lancs.
So literally, as I was promoted to regimental sergeant major, that was the transition point just before the Christmas, where they became then the specialised infantry. Okay. So we went from 267 soldiers, like 600 plus within a regiment. That then needed to be reduced down to 267. That's all the regiment was pitted for.
So did you pick obviously the best guys for the job? What happened to the rest of the guys then? Do they get kicked out the army or something?
So there's a process of elimination in the sense of there was a cadre. Someone didn't want to do the cadre. There was a bit gone. We were moving down south potentially. There's another load gone. So a bit of natural selection initially and a natural wastage with people getting out the army and stuff.
What happened to those people though at the army?
They were sort of disbanded between the other Duke of Lancaster regiments or out to the rest of the field.
The careers
army.
weren't finished then necessarily. No, they just moved on.
They still all had the career, but you need really at this point then, they were starting to thin down who wanted to be there.
You wanted the really keen ones for this.
Yeah, and then, the selection card initially, was not really that arduous. It was, You know, it was a little bit arduous, enough to get people to deter
all
them.
the biff's gone.
Yeah, but achievable for the rest, you know what I mean? Because we needed...
What, as a good level infantry soldier
yeah,
should
we needed to keep a shape, and we needed a base to work from. You know, there's no point in running 2 SAS selections tomorrow morning, because there'd only be like no one stood there, you know what I mean? So it was a case of like, you know, let's welcome them all in. And then from there, progressively, that card has got a lot more difficult to where it is today. So at that point then, we were reducing that, and it was like really just trying to find our new shape, find our new capability, and what we were going to be doing out in operations. So with the specialised infantry, the idea was that it was not a huge unit being deployed overseas with all the logistical parts that come with it. This was now a streamlined regiment with a better trained individual within it that could go out without all the manoeuvrous assets and stuff like that, and still achieve the same objectives or have the same sort of influence in whatever country that was in. So there were stripped down versions. There was 4 regiments of these, and it was the rifles, they took one, the PWRR took one, the Jocks took one, and there was one for obviously the Duke of Lancasters, we took the other one. At that point there, we all still had our cap badges, and we had the only thing that sort of denoted that we were in that regiment was a triangle with a dagger in the middle, and that was the specialised infantry.
Yeah.
So as this happened, this concept, it was continuously being assessed, and it was growing, and it was, you know, it was seen as actually, this is good. You know, the lads were rising to the occasion, that all, you know, make them responsible, and they'll drive to better performance. And that sort of started to happen. Lads were buying Gucci kit, getting themselves on runs, swearing themselves away, and the operations were sort of started to come around a bit quicker. Our AOR, air responsibility, was out in Europe, and I don't think at the time when that happened was like, it was a bit like, wow, Europe, you know, all the operations have been in Afghan and in Iraq and the Middle East, and, you know, out in Africa and stuff like that. So it wasn't a bit of a bum deal, but I remember the CEO at the time, he said, this is the place to be. This is what we've just got, is a little golden nugget. And that, as you can imagine, over the last few years, you can see how that's happened, and there's loads of influence, there's loads of operations going on around there. But as the specialised infantry grew, again, as did the work for it, but the demand, the signal coming back was that actually it was more than an infantryman they needed. They needed engineers, they needed artillery, they needed, you know, other assets potentially. So as the demand signal was sort of pushed out, as was the demand for people, and it wasn't necessarily just the infantry they were after. It was all arms stuff. It was engineers. It was artillery. There was other assets involved. So then we sort of pinned ourselves in by calling it specialised infantry, in the fact that, but it just wasn't that. So there was a whole process in the backgrounds of the army reinventing the wheel, not reinventing the wheel, but rethinking about the idea, the concept, and making it future-proof. And that's where the Rangers was born. So the 4 units then just switched one day straight across into becoming the Ranger units. So the same principles, same soldiers still there. The selection card has progressively got harder. My son's just come off it himself only a few months ago. Unfortunately, he did fail. He got to the end, but he was on the army boxing team for the last 2.5 years. So
fit, but soldier has probably not been as
fit. Got all the way there, you know. And I mean, there was like 100 started. I think there was like 80 finished, 140, 150 started. So, and there's not many battle courses now you go and do where you're losing, you know, 30-40% nutrition rate. It doesn't really happen apart from selection. So, you know, there is a bit of credibility that comes with that and doing the course at the moment. So we went and done that, but he just didn't have the knowledge to sort of, and the experience to sort of carry him through. So he's going back there. So, but that just shows, you know, they have got a standard, and they're sort of sticking to it. So the soldiers they're picking up now, the new blood is like, you know.
So you'd say the regiment's improving, getting stronger, knowing their place within the army as a whole, and they've got their own kind of lane now as well. Because what do they do, which is different? Is it mainly, because I spoke to you about this a few times, because some people are unsure as to what their role is, because it's a new regiment that's been formed, and is it mainly training of other units from abroad? Is it and helping develop them? Because that role was generally done by special forces before or something, or so what is it? Because there's a bit of confusion within the military in general as to kind of exactly what it is. So,
I mean, as you can imagine, there's levels to it all, isn't there? You know, and obviously they sit at the top level, the SES, as you'd imagine, but then there's levels below that, and you know, just like the American model, they've got the Delta Force and they have the green beret sort of thing. That's Salisbury. That's the sort of try to. I think that's what it looks like if you sort of understand that shape is what we're trying to do. I think with what that was trying to emulate. Obviously, I've been away from there for 12 months now, and it's come on leaps and bounds. It's in a completely different area. But as when I left the unit,
the Rangers,
when I left the Rangers and I come back, I was the welfare officer, captain, got commissioned eventually. When I left there, it was very much that. So they were going out, training other nations, other forces, having influence in the country, liaising with people, and it's just that 1 foot forward really is what they provide.
Yeah.
Again, there's obviously other bits that go on in the margins that I'm not probably privy to anymore, but I think what it is and the way the model is shaped, it looks really good. And they're getting good results.
Yeah,
and the lads
there,
the lads and the girls who are joining, absolutely love it.
So there's women in the Rangers as well, and there's women allowed in all the regiments now, isn't there?
Yeah.
What's the success rate with that? How many are in? Have passed the selection level?
So as I say, I left 12 months ago.
Yeah.
There was an officer in there. She was a captain, really capable. I think she's moved on, gone to a better unit since. Off the top of my head, I don't know, to be honest with you.
But not actual soldiers, but officers.
There was an officer in there, and I think there's a couple of soldiers, I mean, you have the clerks, as you would do anyway, and the combat medics and stuff like
that are attached to it.
But they're still doing all the stuff, So they're out there on the ops doing all the same stuff as what the guys are doing. So, no, it's good stuff.
And what would you say because like regiments have their own personalities, don't they, and their own cultures?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at the parachute regiment, something springs to mind about what they're like, and then you've got the Marines, they've got their own cultures.
Yeah.
Then like you've got the old infantry regiments that are all known for certain things. And what would you say the Rangers kind of culture is? Not necessarily the image that is presented to the general public, but what is it like within there? Would you say the culture is? So
it's a busy one.
Yeah,
it is busy. And what you've
professionals,
100%. In a normal unit, you'd have lads and girls going on the sick, for instance, 2-3 months, and that doesn't happen there. The cycle is so quick. What they're rotating through.
You're just gone, are you? Binned off. You stop messing about.
You move out. There's a process of getting you back in the game and rehabilitation and stuff. But all the G1 issues, all the compassionate stuff, again, managed to a degree. But the long and short of it is to the pointy end, and they're trying to get out there and do a job. And every man and girl is required. So it's very intense. The operational cycle they're currently on is rapid. It's coming around. They're constantly out. The tours out in Europe, because it was only a short play, they were rotating like a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there. It was brilliant. Living in the hotels and stuff like that. Not necessarily what you do in the middle, how you see it in the military and bases and stuff like that. Small teams out in the Ulu. It's
always better working in smaller groups away from
absolutely
HQ.
Fantastic. Yeah. But there comes a lot of responsibility. And again, you haven't got company commanders and sergeant majors running around cracking the whip. These are corporals, sergeants, young, who are delivering, who've got loads of responsibility. So I think the culture, I can only speak for three Ranger because that's where I've come from, is the fact that, that's still very much the old Lancs, but there's new blood coming in constantly. I think that bloodline will stay there for many years because it's so deep-rooted into there. But eventually, with the new blood coming in, they'll find their own new identity, just like we did in the Lancs, and grow that from there. But no, it's a busy unit,
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's really interesting to find that out. I appreciate that.
I'd love to tell you more, but like I say,
there's only
it's like the certain amount I can say, but also as well, it's 12 months since I've left that unit.
So you're not as current on what's going on.
And no, not at all.
Brilliant. So obviously that takes us to where we are now, and you've obviously since you're half out the army, you kind of got 1 foot out. You're a full-time reservist, so you're still occupied the majority of the time with that.
I've got a full-time job. So the idea was I was down south and then down in London, got commissioned, become an officer, but the job was just, not like it was before, the carrot and stick to become the regimental sergeant major. And I think the reality of transition across to become an officer and the jobs you sort of get, like welfare officer, training officer.
That's glamorous.
They're not, that's a nice way of putting it, So I think being down south, away from the family, for all them long periods, it just didn't warrant the job anymore. And I thought I could scratch the same itch, by getting a job in the Northwest. And this job come available as quartermaster, as I said before, Northwest OTR, which just suited me down to the ground. They very rarely come on the market, so I put my name forward. Funny dit though, the CO, you've got to get permission to leave. Yeah. So the commanding officer at the time, and he'd probably kill me for saying this, but got injured as well on an accident out somewhere. He's flying back. He's in the Aussie, so I had to go and visit him. So he's there, broken arm, broken leg. All his ribs are smashed. He's like, half two. I says to him, Colonel, you're all right? He's like, yeah. I said, listen, by the way, you don't mind me getting early release, do you? There's no way I could have spoke to him otherwise, and the job was up in 2 weeks. He's like, he looked at me and he goes, are you kidding me? I'm on my death's door, my family's outside here, and you're putting job on me now. So anyway, he went, yeah, just whatever, just whatever, Joe.
Getting why he's vulnerable.
Sign that with your other good arm. And off I went, you know what I mean? So done that transition, but the idea behind that was to do something for myself. I've worked for the army for so many years, committed everything, but also learned so much from them and all the experiences I've had. So what I've tried to do, or what I've done, is develop a leadership and management course, got the course accredited, so we can issue certificates and accreditation. That comes
you actually get a qualification in management off it, don't you?
Yeah,
Is that right?
Correct.
What's the qualification?
A level 3 diploma, that's what.
That's pretty, not to be sniffed at then,
it's
is it?
middle management,
yeah.
But it's more than just the qualification. It's the knowledge and skills to genuinely go and influence people and also yourself.
I've seen you at work as well, influencing people. I mean, it's a totally unconscious probably process that you've got. Yeah. But you use the words management, but I like to call that leadership, because people have an idea. Management is like someone cracking the whip at the back, I like to think, but leadership is when you lead from the front and you take you put yourself in the way of any problems for your team and you take the hit yourself. And I'd imagine that's how you probably navigated yourself as a leader in the military. And so from what you're delivering to people with your vast experience within the military is the sum of all your experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's compiled in a neat package that people can go over a couple of days, and learn and go away with practical tools they can employ within their own.
So how many days can you do this qualification in?
So it's a 3-day course, full days. You go through, obviously assessments in your own time and everything else, bit of practical activity. But obviously the course is growing and it's genuinely making a difference. Those that have attended it, the feedback we're getting is amazing. It's genuinely connecting with people. They get it and they've got stuff they can go away and deliver on the back of. So, it's exciting. It's exciting times. And what I've also done now is we've just opened a CIC, which is a community interest company. And the idea is now we're just forming a different package, quite similar to that one, without the leadership aspect, but all the same modules that we're going to be delivered in schools and also to support veterans.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
So it's just about, doing something for me, building something that doing something for me for the good and benefit of everybody else. But, making a bit of a legacy out of it.
Yeah.
I think I've done as much as I possibly could have done within the army without labouring on too long and becoming old and miserable, stuck behind a desk, So I'm just trying to build something new,
Yeah, that's brilliant, mate. It's very admirable. And I'm sure that'll be a really good course. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to jump on it, as I said. Yeah, but that's definitely a bolt on as well for certain people that do run courses of themselves, that for people that puts them in positions of leadership. Don't always get qualifications in leadership necessarily or management, do you? I don't really know many.
So, what we do on the course is we talk about leadership, we talk about management. What we really are is just creating good human beings. That's it. If you profile what a great leader is or a great manager, I ask you 5 characteristics, you give me 5. They're the same 5 characteristics you'd expect from your brother, your son, your husband and a wife. The fact that we can make good people equally, makes good leaders and good managers. And that's the sort of message that's coming out from the course.
That's good.
Yeah, it's powerful.
People have a misconception of leadership, what is expected, don't they? They think they need to be on someone's case if they're doing something wrong and be merciless and cutthroat, and it's bloody not that way at all. In simple
terms, it's the ability to get more from people.
Yeah.
It's about inspiring people to do things they potentially couldn't do themselves. Without that.
So if you could sum up quickly then, what type of character would you need to be and what skill set would you need to be able to get the most out of someone?
I think a diverse one. I think empathetic, understanding people's situations, because that ultimately, if we try to manage everyone in the same or lead everyone in the same manner, it's got limitations.
Yeah.
So I think, having that open mind, individuals,
individually manage, not have a set template and for everyone.
Everyone's got their own limitations. So it's not everyone can get to the finish point. There's people, but they can get to different finish points, and that's the difference.
But it's not a softy approach then. It's far from that. So it's still got many of the military kind of aspects in there.
I mean, we can all flog an horse,
Yeah.
but it's not about flogging an horse. It's about, taking the horse to the water and making it drink.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. It's like, it's getting the most from each individual, not, this is my course, this is where we're going. You either march or die sort of sort of message. We're there to get people to the point of their limit of their exploitation and sort of develop them there. So everyone's different.
Yeah.
Some go beyond, some go less.
That's really interesting because a lot of my friend Mike Chadwick, Mike Chadwick?
Yeah.
He does all the PT side of stuff and physical training.
Yeah.
And his is all very individualistic now as well. It's not like collective, which is very much what you're saying with your management style, which is very true because we're all so different. One style doesn't fit all, does it?
No.
You know?
Very much no. So as I say, it's being developed. It's constantly under review and it's only getting better. And already, it's only been a few months, but we've had so much interest. And I think every person that we do connect with who comes through the course, there's 3 or 4 people that are coming off the back of it, who are connecting with them. So that to me is probably the best marketing tool.
That's the sign of a great product, isn't it? When the marketing's built into the product and people are referring you because they're getting so much value from it.
Yeah, I think they see the utility in it.
Yeah.
And they see other people and they can go, there's a program there. So it's not just about leadership management. It's about performance yourself. It's about, improving your own self-worth and becoming better.
Absolutely brilliant, mate. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming down today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's been really interesting as well.
No,
So,
thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
inviting me and cheers, mate.
Well, you're welcome. Cheers.